Hello, I'm Anna Czerwiński and you're watching TVP World. In the wake of the Russian attack against Ukraine, the West has unleashed an unprecedented barrage of sanctions against Russia. Something that Vladimir Putin perhaps might not have expected, but still, it did happen. And right now, the Russian economy is being pummeled by restrictions imposed by Western countries. The question is, however, is this enough to deter Putin from continuing his unprovoked, brutal attack against Ukraine, or whether more could be done to achieve a more immediate effect and save thousands of Ukrainian lives in the process? We'll be discussing that in greater detail with our guest today, Andriy Timofeyuk, who is a business analyst specializing in these matters. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello from Kyiv, Ukraine.
Ukraine fighting against Russian aggression and trying to convince all of the European Union essentially that things need to be done. Things need to be done in the economic realm as well. Do you think that what the world is doing right now is sufficient to create some sort of, make some sort of lasting impression on Russia and make it turn around, leave Ukraine?
We from Ukraine are really thankful to all of the civilized world effort to help Ukraine, and I'm actually sure that, and actually everybody is sure that all of the sanctions that we face in the last 21 days, they are much more than Putin expected from the West, because they are really severe. All of these blockades, not to trade with Russia, all of this exodus of international business, all of this arresting of the Russian assets. But by the way, 300 billions of dollars were arrested by the United States and Russia, and we estimate our damage to our economy right now at this point, like 500 billions of dollars in Ukraine. Yeah, so it will be actually very good to make Russia to pay for us even in that matters. And the last word, I think that majority of Ukrainians, they want from the last was the full blockade. I mean, to stop all of the trade relations with Russia. But even this, what is going is really helpful and great.
So the Russian economy is feeling this strain right now. The Russian stock exchange is not opening for fear of collapse. As you've mentioned, companies are leaving. Many Western companies have already decided to leave the Russian market for good. The ones which are staying are facing increasing pressure right here in Western countries because of the associated opprobrium of staying in a country which continues to ravage its neighbor, to destroy the Ukrainian economy, and to expose Ukrainian citizens to pain and suffering. So this is something that it's a question of ethics for companies. But for European governments, obviously, it is a question of applying more and more severe sanctions. From your perspective, do you think that the Russian economy will finally start to crack under this pressure within the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think it will definitely will crack. But what to mean by foreseeable future? Because all of these sanctions, they need time to make impact on ordinary Russian citizens, and you need actually to understand the structure of Russian society. It is a very big country, but it is a country rich in resources, but in general it is poor country, and like in percentages of their population, like 144 millions. I don't count 2 millions of people in Crimea as Russian citizens. Yeah, the proportion of middle class people who are actually very punished by this, who lost their jobs in international companies, it's much less than in developed countries. So in order to for these sanctions to really put people on the street, really working class people, we need time, because Russia is poor, and these working class people, they're not yet feeling that as severely as the middle class, but the percentage of middle class in a poor authoritarian Russia is much less. So answering the question, Yes, definitely sanctions will hit hard Russia, and they're going into abyss right now. But since they are authoritarian country, it will take some time, for sure.
And also, while the middle class is likely to feel the effect of Western companies leaving the Russian market, for example. So essentially, many of the creature comforts they used to enjoy, these will no longer be available. But the problem is with working class Russians. Well, they are not shedding tears for not being able to access Instagram. They are not complaining about not being able to buy the latest iPhone. And they are also likely to be persuaded by the Russian government that while they are now facing poverty, it is all for the greater good of their homeland, and that Vladimir Putin is doing something important, so they have to endure that. So isn't it the case that rather than focusing on the Russian population, the sanctions should focus on the functioning of the economy in general, so that in the end, the government will no longer have the money to continue this war?
It's a very actually hard question to tell. It's a topic for great scientific, I don't know, research. From my point of view, there must be no mercy. I mean, all of the Russian citizens must be punished severely by sanctions, working class, middle class, until they go on the street,
No, of
stop
course,
the
yes.
government. Yes, yes. So actually, I
It's about
support
producing the
this.
desired effect. That there will be less of an effect of trying to influence working class Russians than targeting Russian institutions and government, because this will be more immediate, right?
Oh, well, from my point of view, like in order to stop Russia, you need to do two things. The first thing is economic collapse, and this is going a little safer safer to European efforts and efforts of civilized world, of course. And the second thing is military loss. And that's what we do in Ukraine right now. We are actually effectively destructing. We are not in business of giving homage to Putin as he expected. We are in business of destroying their army and their soldiers right now, right here today, like in Europe, yeah. And we do this, and we think that if it's simple Russian citizen, it will at the same time feel that the prices are risen, there is no jobs, there is no job for him, and on the second he will hear about a lot of people died, which were dying, like whatever the cause to invade Ukraine, whether he believes it was okay or not. If it goes bad, then Putin is bad. Yeah, so this is like so that's why we think that we need to, unfortunately, to harm working class people with all the sanctions, to do maximum effort in order for them to go on the streets and to protest. Yeah, so I don't think that if we will target only people guilty from Russian Federation, only institutions, it will go for years.
And generally, there is a problem with sanctions that they have a delayed effect. But there is one particular type of economic measures that could be applied that would have a much more immediate effect, namely stopping Russian oil and later on Russian gas from being distributed across the European Union. Right now, essentially, the European Union is bankrolling Putin's invasion of Ukraine, which is morally, well, that's reprehensible, that's unacceptable. But also, there is no logic to that, because essentially we are trying to stop something that we are funding at the same time. So, do you think it is even remotely possible to stop Putin's war in Ukraine without at least stopping the import of oil? Gas would take more time to deal with, but oil, that's more readily available from other sources. So shouldn't this be our first, second, and third priority?
Yes, I totally agree with you. Especially, I wanted to make emphasis on the difference between oil and gas because, for example, I was in 2017 in Berlin, and I was in study tour, and it was we were we are being explained how the gas system of Germany works. And actually, yes, from this point of view, gas is much more, even without Nord Stream 2, is a much more complicated issue. But oil, yes, indeed, I think that European countries at this time need to be united and need to stop all the consumption of oil from Russian Federation and take oil from other places, even if it brings costs. But in general, of course, this is like a topic for a huge debate because it's a great geopolitical game. I mean, there are many other players like Saudi Arabia and other players in this market, like China, of course, and like from consumer point of view. So the thing is, like, there is no like a simple solution for this. For oil and gas. For oil, it could be done in the nearest future. Yes, indeed. But we just hope that European leaders and Western world will find like a balance, not to harm too much to their interests, but also to harm Russian interests in order to save Ukraine. We just hope that you will find. You need to hire the best consultants, the best guys to make such some quick plan to do this. In order of gas, the same story, but it's a little bit more complicated. But you must understand that Putin is a KGB guy, and he was working like for 20 plus years in order to make this dependence of European Union on Russia in gas very big. So a lot of work needs to be done, but I hope it is possible.
Especially since this would also be a good investment for Europe. It's not only about, but it should be primarily about helping Ukraine, but also I think European governments should realize that they are also helping themselves because they are abandoning dependence on one very unreliable partner, i.e. Russia, and they are building diversity of sources of energy. So that's an investment. And also another investment is having an independent and prosperous Ukraine instead of having it subjugated by Russia. So I think perhaps this is the message we should be sending to European leaders, that they should be doing that not just because they care, but also it's in their own best interest to do that. The time is now. There is no time to wait.
Yes, I need just to add one thing to be absolutely clear that like the freedom, if you want to be free, you need to have some cost. I would quote Joe Biden. Well, actually, I don't remember his quote, but he told very sincerely to his citizens that we will stop Russia, but it will take some cost. So in this sense, what do you mean? To reform the system, especially in gas, because why Russian gas was so friendly met in the European Union, because they gave it to you with a really low price. Yeah, it's just really low price. So in this sense, we just hope that in the long run, it is a great investment in your security. In the long run, it is yes, a great investment in European security. But in the short run, prices will rise, and somebody unfortunately need to be paid. But I'm for sincerity. People need to understand that they are paying in the short run to have European security in the long run and world security in the long run, and to help to fight for freedom right now, right here in Ukraine, in Europe.
So one could conclude by saying that economic measures right now are more important than ever to help Ukraine, to help repel this Russian aggression that continues threatening the lives of millions of innocent civilians, but also essentially tackling the issue of dependence on Russian resources in particular is something that would need to be done at some point in the future anyway. So right now is the perfect opportunity to essentially combine morality and investment so that the future might indeed look brighter, not just for Europe, but also primarily for Ukraine. Andriy Timofeyev was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your insight.
Thank you. Yeah. Goodbye. Thank you.